take on the basket case that is my truck suspension. We're going to start in the back, mainly because I got a razor blade and a tire, and all the tire stores are closed today, so I can't do anything. I put the spare on, but while I have it jacked up in the air, figured we will tackle the new shocks in the back. I wanted to do these last, but it looks like they're going to end up first. I'm actually really excited about this. I went and I got the Blistein Shocks. So Blistein, I guess is how you pronounce it. It's a German company, so Stein would mean. I've heard people pronounce it Blistein. I guess it's called Blistein. And it's a German company. It says it's Volkswagen Brand on there, which I believe means engineered for performance. But I thought Sportswagen was car. Anyways, so we got the Blisteins. I was watching a video on this. They were comparing this particular shock to another one of the Blistein shocks. Basically, the gist of the video was, the gist of the video was that this shock was better, the other shock was prettier. Honestly, if you need pretty shocks, you probably don't need a truck. I stand behind that. I know what you're going to say. I have my truck jacked up 80 feet and blah, 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 and I need pretty shocks. No, you don't. You don't need pretty shocks. You want pretty shocks because people are going to see your shocks, but I think these look pretty. I think these look very pretty. Now, before you go and be like, oh, you're bashing me, I'm sure your truck is awesome. I'm sure if I saw your truck, my tongue would be hanging out and all of that stuff. I actually do like the mods on the trucks. However, you probably still don't need that truck. You probably could have gotten a Kia or maybe even a Jeep. Anyways, so these particular shocks, what I was looking for was a gas-charged shock, and I wanted something that was going to handle loads well. I was not too as concerned about ride quality. Blistein's not known for its great ride quality, which is smoothness, but it's known to take a beating, and that's what I really need a shock to do, is take a beating. If you're concerned about ride quality, well, you probably either don't drive a truck or don't need one. Man, I'm just insulting everybody today. So, yeah. But if you're looking for a better ride quality, Monroe is typically known as a good quality shock that's known for a better ride quality. They tend to be a little bit smoother than the Blisteins. But the Blisteins are known to be a little bit more rugged and be able to handle loads and things like that. I was really concerned about having these on the front of it, in particular with the snow plowing, more so on the back, because I actually have the air assists that aren't working, and that's going to be something else that we're going to be doing up when we deal with the front part of the suspension, because the compressor for the bags in the back is actually in the front. So, and that needs to be replaced. So, needless to say, I'm very excited about these Blistein shocks. Sounds like a good German beer, Blistein. I want my shocks to go up and down as smooth as a German beer. Yeah, I'll work on the jokes. Okay, it's pretty dark outside right now, and I got a stuck bolt on the top of it. We're just going to hit them with penetrating fluid and come at them another day. Does not look like these shocks are going to be coming off today. So that's where I sit right now, and yeah, we'll just take care of it some other time, because I've heated it up, I'm penetrating fluided it up, and it just doesn't want to come off. Okay, so I promised you some suspension work, so in the back ones, the bolts don't want to come off. I'm going to have to cut them off. I'm going to have to buy some new bolts. So we're going to work on the front suspension right here. I'm actually more eager to get the new shocks in the front than the back anyways. So I have it up on a jack stand. We're going to just kind of support the lower control arm here with the jack, just so falling all over the place. Now, on this side I've already loosened the bolts up, so I know they'll come loose. Now, this one has 2 nuts on it. Strut mount tight. Now, spring. So you can bring the bolt and take it out. Okay, got it out. Now I got to figure out what I'm going to do about this bolt, because it's still stuck in there. So I'm going to figure that out, and then we'll get the new ones on. Okay, it's time for the new one to go in. So you put this washer on. There's a spacer that goes in between this, fits in there, and this is going to go up in here. This will mount into the other bolt in the frame here. Washers set and everything. Next goes the rubber washer. This I want to do it first. all that's left is torque it down to specs and move on to the next side. So that's the shock in a nutshell. We'll probably do the rears again sometime because those are going to have to get cut off kind of like these, and those are going to be a lot more difficult to cut off. I'm also more anxious to get them on the front because the front is the one that's having a lot of the issues with the suspension. On top of it, I got to put a snowplow on the front of it. So that is why I want to aim for the front first. Anyway, so the back was just kind of convenient. All right, I'm going to get ready to do the back shocks now, and this is actually being done way after I did the front shocks in the first attempt at the back shocks. One thing I didn't have were these. These are the bolts that hold the shocks in. They're a 10.9 grade bolt. That is equivalent, that's the metric equivalent to an 8 grade bolt. I didn't know that. I was watching Andy's Little Homestead. He was putting a winch on his trailer, and he didn't know that either. But after reading through all the comments and all of what everybody had to say, I found out that a 10.9 is the metric equivalent of a 8 grade bolt. So I probably could have just gone to the hardware store and picked some of these up and put them in there, but these are a little specially designed. They have little curvatures and stuff, so I'll probably be better off with the stock bolt. These were like $10 a piece. I paid $40 for 4 of them over on eBay. That was, yeah, that seems a little bit much to me. But what we're going to do, we're going to take those bolts off using this, the fine cutting wheel off the angle grinder. And then the new bolts are going to get some of this, which is anti-seize lubricant. So, let's get the truck backed in here and we will make some sparks fly. Okay, let's talk about bolts. And this is why tension on the bolts is so important. And technically every bolt has a torque spec. Good luck finding that said torque spec. But technically every bolt has one. There's certain applications you want to be very mindful of the torque spec, and some that aren't. Because sometimes the bolts need to go in exactly the same pressure just to hold things flat properly. Sometimes they need to have the proper tension just so they don't fly off. Like I said, this one was 100 foot-pounds. So what happens with a bolt when you tighten up the nut is the bolt stretches and pulls. What you're trying to do is get the right amount of stretch and pull on that bolt, and it's not going to go any further than that, so that the nut will hold in there on whatever it's supposed to, and it's not stretching so much that you're going to break the bolt. So that is the basics of why you want to torque things. If the bolt stretches too much, you can't reuse the bolt because you can't, because it's stretched so much that you're going to run out of threads or whatever the case may be. It's actually better to replace bolts, especially in like an application like this that's holding on suspension parts, than it is to try to use the old ones. These are very hefty bolts. You could probably get away with these for quite some time. But that said, torque down. Ugga is not a torque spec. And just, try to find those torque specs for the really important stuff. Yeah, lug nuts have a torque spec. They're usually 100 foot-pounds on most vehicles. Not all, but most vehicles. They have a torque spec. I've replaced many studs because of tire companies that wanted to put them on with an impact and just tighten them way down. And I sat there with cheater bars and breaker bars and everything else just to get my lug nuts off and end up breaking the studs, putting in new bolts and new studs. try to take it back to the tire place and tell them they did that. Go for it. We don't touch impacts. No, never. So, torquing is a very important thing. Not twerking, torquing. Okay, so we got the shock out. I took out the bottom bolt already. So now it's time to mount the new ones. And they come with the strap on them. And that's one thing you want to do, is you want to leave that strap on there until they're completely installed. I might have to jack up the truck a little bit.